All right, so now let's go ahead and take a look at skill K.15. Writing a quadratic function in vertex form, given the vertex and another point. So over here, we will go ahead and put our equation in vertex form, y equals a times x minus h squared plus k, where again, the vertex is h comma k. So in this case, h equals 0, k equals 1. And then this part right here, what seems to throw people off the most of these problems is actually something that is such a fundamental concept that most people just overthink it and they forget that this is what's going on. And that would be the fact that in an ordered pair, those are just giving you specifically your an x and y value from your equation. So when we're doing these problems, what you do is you identify your points, and we have our equation y equals a times x minus h squared plus k. Well, if you look over here, we know what h is, we know what k is, we know what x is, we know what y is. The only thing that we need to find is the letter a. So as we go through these, we have y, which is 2, equals a, which is the one thing we're still trying to find out, times x minus h squared plus k. So here, we'll go through, we'll plug everything else in. X is equal to 2, h is equal to 0, k is equal to 1. And then we're just going to go through, we're going to do the math on this. So 2 equals a times 2 minus 0 is 2, squared plus 1. Do a couple steps at once right here. 2 minus 1 is 1. A times 2 squared is 4. So what we have is 4a equals 1. Divide both sides by 4, and a equals 1 over 4. So our actual equation that we're going to end up with is, again, it's an equation, so we actually want y to be part of our answer. So we have y equals a, which is 1/4, parentheses x minus h, but again, 0 squared plus k. But because of this part, when we go to enter it, we are going to get rid of that 1/4 x squared plus 1. And that should be our answer. So we have y equals, we have a fraction, so 1/4 x squared, try to make sure it's down, plus 1. All right, so that is it. And we'll go through and we'll clear everything. We're going to lose our equation in the top left-hand corner. So if you needed that, then go back to the previous problem and write it down in your notes so you have it as a reference. All right, next one. Same thing. Vertex. Write down what these things mean. H equals 0. K equals 0. X equals 4. Y equals -2. So identify all the parts, plug it into the equation. we know everything except for our a value. So it's going to equal something a, and then I'm just kind of writing out the rest of the equation, and we'll fill in all of our blanks. So y equals a times x minus h plus k. And now we only have one variable left, the a value, which is what we're trying to find. So we just got to do the math now. A times 4 squared plus 0. That's not really a thing. So -2 equals 16a. Divide both sides by 16. And a is going to equal -2 over 16, which is equal to -1 over 8. So our equation is going to be y equals a, which is -1/8. And then again, we'll write out the whole thing, even though a lot of this is just going to go away. The zeros we just ignore. So our equation is -1/8 x squared. Plug it in to see if we are right. Y equals -1 over 8 x squared. And that is correct. So clear this one off. Jump to the next level of problem. And actually those two examples will get you, or should get you, all the way to 90. We'll go ahead and do this one just to give you one more look at it. And so vertex h equals -1, k equals 0. This one, as you can probably tell, is going to be uglier. And the reason it is putting this at a higher level compared to the previous ones isn't because the concept is any more difficult, but because we are now dealing with an ugly fraction. So go through like we've been doing. Y equals a times x minus h squared plus k. Fill all of those in. Y equals -64 over 5. And we're going to leave that as a fraction for now until we can basically determine whether or not it's easier to work with as a fraction or as a decimal. So 15 minus h, which is a -1. So again, minus h or opposite of h, it's going to be positive, but we'll include that part. So plus 0. Now, so we have -64 over 5 equals a, and then it's 15 plus 1, because we have two negatives next to each other. So we have 15 plus 1, which is, of course, 16 squared plus 0. So we'll leave that part off. So we have -64 over 5 equals 256a. Divide both sides by 56, which dividing by 256 is the same as multiplying by 1 over 256. So that's kind of the key to this one. And actually, if we look at this, not overly noticeable, but I am going to point this out. 64 does go into 256 4 times. So that's actually going to go away. We have, again, with fractions, you multiply straight across. 1 over 20. It is negative, so we have to make sure we bring that down. a equals negative 1 over 20. So now plug everything back into the equation. Y equals a, which is negative 1 over 20. X, opposite of h, so minus negative 1 squared plus 0. Y equals negative 1 over 20 x plus 1 squared. So we will see if we did that correct. Y equals negative 1 over 20 parentheses x plus 1 is again do the opposite of what we see, and we are good. So there you go, working through every level. Good luck on these problems.